Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to round number 3 of the 2006 Monsters of Destruction. We're in Del Rio, Texas. I'm Kevin Hines. With 2 qualifying rounds and a professional purse, the competition is getting very stiff at this stage in the game. Joining us for round number 3 is a newcomer, Kelvin Raymer in the Natural High, and Dan Runte replacing Rick Long in the Summit Bigfoot. Let's take a look at our field of drivers.
You know, again, it's like, man, you can't get beat up because one night everything went bad.
It's going to be a tough battle. There's some tough trucks on this MOD thing.
I think I'll probably stall it out a little more off the line, try and get a little more of a launch.
If I get to the semifinals tonight, I at least paid for the fuel to get here.
We come here to win it. We didn't come to, fall victim, but every once in a while you got to let them win one or twice or they don't want to come back out and play anymore.
They're the best of the best, and learning what I'm going to have to do to step up to their pace.
Now we're going to jump right into the action, throwing it up to you, Wade.
As we get ready for round 3 of competition here from Del Rio, Texas, your standings in straight line drags look like this. It's Craig Christensen on top, followed by Dan Patrick, Rick Swanson, Paul Jensen, Rick Long, and bringing up the rear, it's Frank Scattini and Munster Jerky. Your standings in obstacle course racing after 2 rounds, it's Dan Patrick, your leader, followed by Rick Swanson, Rick Long, Craig Christensen, Paul Jensen in the Spider-Man, and once again, Frank Scattini in Munster Jerky. As we conduct the meet and greet, the drivers talking to the fans on hand here in Del Rio. Let's send it down to Kevin.
All right, Rick, so now down in Del Rio, Texas, the crowd is just amazing down here. It's got to make you feel pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. We've done a lot of displays. We've done a lot of radio remotes this morning. We've been doing pretty busy keeping everything going in this town, so it's really exciting to see the crowd come out.
Any predictions for tonight's event?
Hey, kids, who do you think is going to win tonight? Remember, you're standing next to my truck.
Okay. All right, so Kelvin, as a rookie coming into the 2006 Monsters of Destruction season, how do you feel tonight?
Feel pretty good. We're ready. Truck's all ready. We just got to let's see what the night unfolds.
Now, what's the difference being a completely independent driver versus having one of these corporate-sponsored trucks?
Size of the motor, horsepower, drivetrain. As far as axles and stuff, we got about the same. The transmission is a little different than the corporate trucks. We're running probably 100-inch, less cubic inch than the other guys, but we plan on stepping it up a little bit as we go along.
All right, Dan, first time stepping into the series this year in the 2006 season. You come in round number 3 replacing Rick Long. What's going on?
It's going to take a little getting used to. I was just talking about that with a couple of people that were standing here. We were signing some autographs. Just with the whole light thing. I've been off the lights a little while and kind of a little leery of it, but we get a couple rounds for qualifying, hopefully fall right back into the groove.
Now why the truck change on the Bigfoot team here?
Actually, we have a full Summit sponsorship on this truck, where the other ones were still running as just Bigfoot trucks. Summit went and sponsored a full-body deal last year, and we're carrying on this year, so it's kind of a cool deal for them, too. Just hope I can do good for them.
All right, Dan, round number 3 of the series now. It's time to step it up. What do you got in store for us tonight?
Step it up. I don't know if we can step it up. Plus, Roswell, we hung our tongue out of both days there. So about the same program. We're just going to try to qualify good, be there at the end. Hopefully, get the big prize, not the maid of honor. But we're just going to try to stay consistent. That's what we're after. Dan Runte's in here for Bigfoot now, so that means they're getting real serious about things. So we'll have to do the same thing.
Now, do you feel the competition getting a little stiffer now that Dan has stepped into the picture with the Summit Bigfoot?
Well, it's going to take him probably this event to get, figure out the system and all that, how it works, because, we got lucky and got ahead of the game in Roswell, but, he's done the series with me 2 or 3 other series, so he knows how everything is played. So, he's prepared. So, I don't know. Craig, he's going to be, just hanging it out, so I don't know. And then you take in obstacle Rick Swanson and, the kid in the Spider-Man. These guys were making some good turns, so I don't know where it's going to go.
Time for qualifying in round 3 from Del Rio, Texas. Here's Kelvin Raymer in the Natural High, his first time out with the MOD Stars in 2006. A tough challenge for him, Kevin, coming right out of the gate. He'll face Dan Runte in Bigfoot.
That's right, Kelvin Raymer in the Natural High, 100 cubic inch smaller motor than anybody else on the circuit. It's going to be awful tough for him to come out here and make a good showing, Wade.
Yes, and Bigfoot, 30 years in the business, fan favorite. You'd think he'd be the favorite on paper with that reputation. Bigfoot stalls on the start, and Natural High flies across the finish line. But he redlighted. He got a jump. He left too early, Kevin.
Man, that is a tough one to call. Bigfoot having problems right off the line. Natural High with the red light, so it's going to come down to the second lane qualifying for these two drivers to see what actually is going to take place.
Sounds like Bigfoot was interrupted there. The remote ignition interrupter tripped. We don't know how it happened exactly, but he's going to get another pass. We'll move on to the next heat. This is going to feature Craig Christensen in the Dragon Slayer going up against Paul Jensen and Spider-Man. Kevin, these trucks should be identically matched.
You know, with last year's running gear inside the Spider-Man truck out of the Dragon Slayer machine, it is awful tough as father and son go head-to-head here in qualifying action.
Pretty close race. Could be anybody's. Too close to call. 2-5, 2-6 for Dragon Slayer, and Paul Jensen jumped the gun. That's 2 red lights in 2 heats.
You know, it just goes to show that anything can and will happen out here, even in qualifying in the 2006 Monsters of Destruction season. The light tree gets changed each and every time.
Well, it's given the driver some trouble here tonight as we move on to the next heat. That's Rick Swanson in the number 95 Obsession truck, carrying sponsorship from FabTech this year. Rick made the trip out from Menifee, California to this beautiful venue in Del Rio, Texas. He'll do battle with Dan Patrick in Samson, truck number 50.
And this man right here, one of the toughest to beat out there in that Samson truck, running a blown Hemi. That is one of the fastest motors we have ever seen on the circuit.
Good jump off the line for Swanson. Swanson looks like he's going to cross the line first. His time, 2:6.66. Samson not far behind at 2:7.61. A close heat right there.
Now we're going to get a chance to talk with driver Dan Patrick of the Samson truck. Let's walk down there and check it out.
Welcome back to Monsters of Destruction on the Outdoor Channel, round 3, Del Rio, Texas. Here's Dan Runte in the 88. He had his motor killed earlier on his first qualifying attempt, and he's going to get a re-ride right here.
Now anything can and will happen in the world of monster trucks, and look at Bigfoot taking it seriously as driver Dan Runte with a 2.657, one of the fastest qualifying times we've seen here tonight, Wade.
Yeah, he looked real strong right there. If they leave him alone, he can do all right.
But like I say, anything can happen. That RII device, they are tricky things on the trucks. And now we're going to move on with qualifying round number 2 as the drivers switch lanes and go back at it.
Here's Kelvin Raymer in Natural High, carrying number 18 on that truck. You get a good look at what it looks like from the cockpit of that truck. Signals his truck is in good working order, and he's going to do battle here again with Dan Runte and Bigfoot. TQ up for grabs here tonight in Del Rio, Texas. Bigfoot's got a good shot at it, Kevin.
Well, I tell you what better competitor for him to face right out of the gate? Kelvin Raymer in the Natural High. There you see a red light right off the bat. Dan Runte and Bigfoot takes advantage of it. And Dan Runte, obviously, with the faster time that time around. Another red light by the Natural High machine.
2.954 for Runte, not top qualifier. We've seen times in the 2.6s here tonight, and Kelvin just jumped the gun right there. These timing lights, definitely an issue in Del Rio, Texas. Let's see if we can get a look at it here. Just burped the throttle, maybe a little nerves, tried to anticipate the exact moment of the change, and he got beat.
That's right. You know, with his first time being out here with the 2006 Stars, it's got to be a little nerve-wracking. Let's go down and talk with Dan and Kelvin right now.
Yeah, for some reason we had to screw up with the radios, the RRIs. I don't really know what happened. I haven't got that far yet, but I got shut down on that first pass. I mean, got the lights a little close because I'm not used to them, but ended up second qualifying, so we're real happy with that.
I've never done the light before. The first time out, I didn't know when to take off on the exact timing light. The second time, I had an idea. I went to load the torque converter, and I overpowered the brakes, and I red lighted.
Here's Paul Jensen in the Spider-Man truck, carrying the number 02 this year with sponsorship from Tough Country. In the opposite lane, it will be Dragon Slayer, driven by Craig Christensen. Craig is our 2005 Series champion in straight lines, and he's got the lead so far this year as well, Kevin.
That's right, and this matchup is one that we like to see an awful lot, the father-son matchup. They both come out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and look at this Dragon Slayer just putting the hammer down and putting the pounding to Paul Jensen in the Spider-Man truck with a 2.682.
Let's talk to Craig about another great run for Dragon Slayer.
It's good. I kept the best reaction time so far, but the night's young, so we'll just keep working on our own deal. Like Paul coming and asked me, he says, "Why'd you go out and make me look bad?" I says, "You know what? I hate you when you're on the starting line, just like I hate everybody." I says, "So run your own game."
You got lane choice. What are you gonna pick?
I don't know. I'll look and see which lane I qualified faster, and I believe the left lane was faster than right. So if that's the case, I'll stay with the left.
Were you disappointed that you red lighted?
A little bit. I didn't second time, so that was all right, but I think I'd have been closer to number 1 or 2 if I wouldn't have red lit, so it would have been better. Oh well.
You learned a little something?
That's right. I'm always learning something, man. I'm the youngest guy here. I mean, it's an honor to be here with all these guys. I mean, they're all legends, and I'm just a young punk still, so I guess I can afford to make mistakes.
And a little insight there from Paul Jensen and the Spider-Man on what it's like to be the youngster on the tour. Now moving back into qualifying action for their second lane pass, it's driver Dan Patrick and the number 50 Samson, and once again pitted up against Rick Swanson in the FabTech Obsession truck, Wade.
These guys have been paired up, it seems like, every race in 2006, and they're really beginning to dislike each other. Quite a rivalry going here.
And look at this, Dan Patrick with the hammer down the Samson truck, blows the doors off the line.
We've got a DQ. Samson disqualified, jumps the gun. Rick Swanson's time will stand at 3:07.2. We're going to go down to the pits and get a word with the driver of that Obsession truck, Rick Swanson.
I personally think I was a little slow off the line on my second pass. I don't think there was much difference in the lanes. I think I was just slow off the light. But third's all right. I mean, we got some heavy hitters. Bigfoot and Dragon were first and second. So I'm not complaining. I'll take the third.
Right on. How are you going to do in straight line drags?
I don't know. Unfortunately, because of third, I got Samson first round. We beat him once in qualifying, and second time we red lighted, so maybe he'll be flustered and I can get him this time.
So your qualifying results from round 3 look like this. Craig Christensen sets TQ with a 2.526, followed by Dan Runty, Rick Swanson, Dan Patrick, Paul Jensen, and Kelvin Raymer. It's time for heat number 1 of the straight line drag competition, and here comes our first truck. Dan Runty brings the Bigfoot to the line, carrying number 88. There you get a look from the underside of that Bigfoot, Kevin. A lot of shocks go into building one of these trucks.
That's right. Another thing that is very unique on Runty's Bigfoot is the diamond cut tires in the front of the truck. Now, I don't know if that actually makes a difference on this track or not, but I guess we're about to find out as he goes up against Spider-Man here in heat number 1.
So Jensen and Runty here in heat number 1, about to go green. Front wheels coming off the dirt for Bigfoot. Bigfoot across the line first, a time of 2.412. That's the fastest we've seen tonight. Spider-Man, not bad, 2.596, but not good enough.
That's right, even with the fast times that he had a chance to do it twice in 2 different lanes, that time faster than any qualifying run by Dan Runty and the Bigfoot. Let's take a look at the replay. Watch the tire, Wade. Look at the left tire come off of the ground. The amount of torque that truck put to the ground got him the win.
Both trucks pretty impressive here in this first heat. Bigfoot just a little faster. Spider-Man certainly did nothing wrong. Jensen was standing on it. The reaction times were almost identical. Just a good, solid heat.
That's right, with less than 1/10 of a second reaction time for each one of the drivers, that pits them side by side as they take off from the starting gate. And I tell you what, that Bigfoot truck with the Summit sponsorship has come an awful long way in the power in the motor.
So now it's time for heat number 2, and there's that matchup again. It's Rick Swanson in the Obsession going up against Dan Patrick in Samson. These guys they've got to be shaking their heads. Every time they look over, the other guy's there.
You know, it kind of makes you wonder how many times it can actually happen in one night. Dan Patrick and the number 50 Samson has had some red light trouble earlier tonight. Let's see if he can take Rick Swanson in the Obsession truck. Here he goes. Side by side, Patrick in the Samson truck is off the line. And once again, Wade, another red light.
So the win goes to Obsession with a time of 2.766 as Patrick is struggling. He got off the line first, and I'm thinking, man, he's going to win, but too soon.
That's right, and we saw that earlier tonight during qualifying action. Watch this jump right here. Look at that. Almost a full tire out in front of the FabTech Obsession truck of Rick Swanson. And Rick Swanson just biding his time with the clean light, and he's going to walk away with the victory round 1 there.
So Dan Patrick's got to be shaking his head. He's having a heck of a time trying to jump it. And last round, in round 2, that was his strength. I mean, he was right on it. That's how he was winning heats in both straight line and obstacle. Welcome back to Monsters of Destruction on the Outdoor Channel. Wade Sherman and Kevin Hines with you from Del Rio, Texas. As we move on to the next straight line drag heat, it will be Craig Christensen in the Dragon Slayer going up against Kelvin Raymer in Natural High. And Kevin, the advantage, at least on paper, you would think, would go to Dragon Slayer this time.
The advantage is absolutely huge. Not only do we have a new driver and a new truck, but very underpowered compared to Craig's truck. And look at this, shown right there as Craig just marvels across the line with a 2.697 against Natural High's 2.826.
But Kelvin, he represented 2.826 is pretty good. He may come back as fastest loser, and he's definitely on his game here tonight. Just faced a better truck right there in the Dragon Slayer.
And Wade, it's not always about the power, but how quick you can get hooked up and get from line to line. Kelvin Raymer showing that right there in that Natural High truck was a very good, clean competition for Craig Christensen in the 05 Victor Dragon Slayer.
I don't know if it made a lot of difference, but Natural High went a lot higher over his stack of cars, and he spent more time in the air. Dragon Slayer just kind of kept his forward momentum and stayed low, and I think that made the difference.
And some of the money is from the sponsorships that come with that. Tough Country Suspension, of course, one of Craig's sponsors. Now let's go down into the pits and talk to Kelvin Raymer.
The straight line, now that I'm getting used to the light, get a little more comfortable. Next round, we'll step it up a little bit better. We are 100 cubic inch short compared to the other guys as far as the size of the motor. But on a short track like that, you can make it up with reaction time if you get it right.
It's time for semifinal action. Coming to the line there is Dan Runty in the Bigfoot. He's supposed to go up against the against Obsession, driven by Rick Swanson. Let's go inside Rick's truck. There's something going on with Obsession.
Look at it! What's it doing? What is the starter doing?
It's sparking.
Is it loose?
Yes.
Go get a 9/16. I got 2 minutes.
I got it right here.
So Swanson on the clock. They're struggling to get that truck to the line and started. Sounds like they have a starter issue, Kevin.
That's right. It doesn't appear that he's going to make it. Dan Runty and the Bigfoot going up to the line solo, and that 2-minute rule in effect as soon as he gets into the arena. And look at Bigfoot powering right through it, and he's going to cross the line with a 2.743, advancing through the semifinals, Wade.
So I guess Rick isn't going to pay for that gas after all.
I don't know. It sure makes it awful tough when you have any kind of mechanical breakdown like that. Let's take a look at the replay of Dan Runty's Bigfoot. Look at the tires. Those things look like they do get quite a bit of traction in that machine.
Yeah, this track, the way it's set up at Del Rio, there's not a lot of margin for error. You're over and done in 3 seconds.
Well, I think one of the rear steering rams is busted internally, and the front steering is acting up. I can't get the rear wheels straight, so we obviously can't finish out the straight lines.
It's time for semifinal number 2. Here comes Craig Christensen to the line in the Dragon Slayer, and for the second time in 2 heats, he's going to have a bye because Spider-Man broke, didn't make it to the line. A nice run there for Dragon Slayer. Time for the finals of straight line drag competition. This is round 3 from Del Rio, Texas. And doing battle in the final is that man Dan Runty in the Bigfoot truck going up against Craig Christensen in the Dragon Slayer. And Kevin, Craig is no stranger to the finals in any form of MOD racing.
That's right. Both of these drivers extremely tough when it comes to straight line drags. And here we go. Look at that left tire. Bigfoot is off the ground, and it looks like Bigfoot is going to take the win with a 2.438 over Dragon Slayer's 2.534, Wade.
This one probably came down to reaction time. Bigfoot has a little bit more horsepower as well. Let's see if we can find out where this race was won. Dragon Slayer looked like he got a clean start. I think Bigfoot, that big motor, that Hemi under the hood there, just served him a little bit better here tonight.
I'll tell you what, Dan Runty, no stranger to the reaction time. Look at that, a .088. Dragon Slayer actually with the better reaction time. Dan Runty obviously with the stronger truck.
That's fine, but when you start measuring them in thousandths, that's pretty much a dead heat. So your final results in straight line drags look like this. Your winner, Dan Runty in Bigfoot, followed by Craig Christensen, Rick Swanson, Paul Jensen, Kelvin Raymer, and Dan Patrick in Samson with the red light issue. Overall standings after 3 rounds look like this. It's Craig Christensen on top with 67 points, followed by Rick Swanson, Dan Patrick, Paul Jensen, and Dan Runty. In 6th place, it's Rick Long, followed by Kelvin Raymer and Frank Scattini. It's It's time for obstacle course racing here in round 3 from Del Rio, Texas. A good crowd on hand to see Dan Runte do battle here in the first round. He's going to have a solo run, it would appear. We'll get a report on what happened to the opposing truck in just a minute. Around the turning pole well, he can just kind of mail this one in, Kevin.
That's right. With no competition out on the track, the only thing that he's going to be shooting for is a decent time to give him lane choice as they move on to semifinal action. But it looks like Runte has got it made right now, running a 16.121. It looks like Spider-Man was our opposing truck.
Yeah, still that steering problem. He's unable to come out and answer the bell here in the first round of obstacle course racing, so a break for Bigfoot there.
Now we're back for the second round of obstacle course action. It's Dan Patrick and the number 50 Samson. Now this man lays it down in the straight line drags. He's had some red light problems here tonight. I'll be interested to see how he does against Rick Swanson in Obsession. And once again, these two drivers, the hate battle is on.
Yeah, they seem like every time they turn around, they're racing each other, but I gotta wonder if the red light thing is getting in Dan Patrick's head a little bit. Let's see how it affects him here. Look pretty even coming to the turn. Slight edge for Samson there as they make the turn. Still, Samson appears to have the advantage, but Swanson power slides around that last turn. It's going to be close. We'll have to go to the computerized timing. And your winner is Samson with a time of 16.543, Obsession 17.102. That race looked closer than that from up here, Kevin.
It sure did. You know, 0.5 of a second is not a whole lot to separate the first and second place as they work their way around the track. Look at Samson. I think the key point is that he's got the turns dialed in. He doesn't overpower coming through the turns, doesn't get the rear end out, gets it lined up and hammers on the throttle, and I think that's what won him the race.
Looks like he was on the brakes pretty hard and gathered it up before he came around that blue turning pole. Reaction times were about equal. Swanson missed his car stack and got off camber there. That cost him a little bit of speed, and it looked like he carried that turn a little bit too wide as well.
That's right. Rick Swanson having some troubles with going wide in the corners. There you see the rear steering not as effective as it certainly could be. And Rick actually been able to contact all 4 sets of tires on those cars, avoiding a time penalty.
Here's heat number 3 now. Craig Christensen comes out in the Dragon Slayer. Let's see who he's going to go up against. It's Kelvin Raymer in Natural High. This Natural High truck is set up for Freestyle to do tailgate stands and slap wheelies and stuff like that. I don't think it turns very well, and I don't think he has much of a chance against the short wheelbase and the driving expertise of Craig Christensen here in the Dragon Slayer.
That's right. He is certainly at a disadvantage. There you see the years of experience in the Dragon Slayer truck. Craig Christensen is no rookie to this sport. Kelvin Raymer, on the other hand, not only in an underpowered truck, but new to this scene as well. And look at Craig Christensen, a 15.772 against Natural High's 18.017.
Yeah, as we thought, Christensen beat him by an entire straightaway there. That was not a race, but this truck will be back later. Maybe he learned something, but in Freestyle, I bet he's pretty impressive.
That's right. We'll have to wait and see at the end of tonight's event. And look at this. There you see Craig Christensen locking up the tires. He has got that truck so dialed in. It's almost like a driver stepping out on the road and driving their everyday car out on the streets. This guy knows his truck inside and out. And there he goes around, proving once again why he was our 05 champion.
The reaction time just terrible for Raymer in Natural High. I don't know what kind of high he was on, but he sat there for almost a second before he hit the gas. That's where he lost the race, was right there.
I'll tell you what, with a .165 Dragon Slayer, Craig Christensen was on the gas immediately as soon as that tree turned green. And there you see a little bit of wheelie from Natural High, which is what we plan to see a little later tonight, Wade.
Yeah, we'll have some fun with him in Freestyle, but he just fell asleep at the wheel there. 0.7 of a second reaction time. That's the worst I've ever seen since we went to the timing light measurement.
That is very difficult when you have that high of a reaction time. That delayed off the start, if you had a powerful truck, would make it very difficult for you to catch up. Let's go back to our matchup right now. Dan Patrick in the number 50 Samson is coming up to the line, getting staged and ready to go. And he is against one of the fastest drivers on the circuit. It's Dan Runte in the Summit Bigfoot.
Let's see if he can get that timing light right. There you see what they see. I saw a lot of yellows. I don't know. No wonder they're confused. I couldn't tell what was going on right there from that view, but this is a pretty good race. It looks like Bigfoot makes it to the turning pole first. Bigfoot has the advantage as Samson almost takes out the fence. He carried that one real wide. Now he's in trouble. Doesn't make it over his car stack. Something going on in the head of Dan Patrick. He's in trouble. Bigfoot puts a hurting on him with a time of 15.650.
That's right, and that's what I was mentioning earlier. Dan Patrick has a tendency to overdrive these corners a little bit with that very powerful Hemi that he's got under the hood. Let's take one more look at this. Dan Runty in the Summit Bigfoot, a very good start right off the bat. A nice tight corner, gets lined up for the second set of cars. Look at him get it dialed in. Those diamond cut front tires appear to be getting some very good traction as he rounds those corners, Wade.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing for a driver to do sometimes. You got to go slow to go fast, and he was very calm and very precise and gathered that truck before he got back on the gas around that turn. Here you see Samson. He carries it quite wide there, hits the blue car stack pretty well. This is the turn where he got out of shape, almost into the railing there, has to correct, got in trouble, and he doesn't make it over the white stack. Let's get a word with Dan on what went wrong in that heat.
What do I tell you about consistency? Either I'm consistently good or consistently bad. So tonight we're on the bad side. So, come out of this turn down here. I probably raced more obstacle races with him through the years than anybody else, and he knows my weaknesses and I know his. And I come around this turn, got in a throttle, and the back end just started going out from under me, and the harder I tried, the worse I made it. So we were done.
All in round 4, huh?
Yeah. So, oh well. Ain't no use beating myself up over it.
A very dejected Dan Patrick going home after semifinal action here in obstacle course racing in round 3. We move on to the second semifinal. This is Craig Christensen in the Dragon Slayer. He put up a pretty good time, Kevin.
That's right, Craig Christensen, one of the fastest trucks we've seen out here. And this Del Rio crowd here in Texas absolutely loves him. Every time he comes out into the arena, they go wild. And once again, Rick Swanson in the Obsession truck. We're going to see if he can keep it tight. And here we go into racing action. Dragon Slayer is off the line. It goes to the corners, as it always does in Chicago-style racing. Look at the Dragon Slayer machine. He's around it. It almost looks like he's going to catch up with Rick Swanson, Wade.
Swanson has not been approaching his car stacks clean. He's been drifting off to one side, and he had a problem there at the end. Dragon Slayer takes this heat with a time of 15.913, and Swanson almost 2 full seconds behind, a little bit more.
18.029, not a very good time. I'm sure that Rick Swanson is a little bit disappointed. Let's take a look at the replay. As we were focusing earlier on watching Craig Christensen, he always locks that rear tire, gets the truck lined up, and is always clean as he comes across those cars. And I tell you what, I think he's going to be tough to beat tonight in the finals.
Yeah, that shorter wheelbase on the Hummer-style body, I think that serves him well in these obstacle course races. Here we take a look now at Swanson. Swanson got around the first turn okay, but then he got out of shape, carried it really wide, had to come back in, didn't hit that blue stack very well, hit it with one front tire and off center with the other. Got around this one and didn't even make a pass at the white stack. He had already been off the gas by then. He knew he'd been beat, kind of just mailed it in from there.
Looking at the reaction time, Craig Christensen and the Dragon Slayer flat out drove Rick Swanson with 2 1,000ths of a second different off the line. It all came down to the corners and the cars.
Welcome back to Monsters of Destruction on the Outdoor Channel. It's time for the finals in obstacle style racing here from Del Rio, Texas. The finals will feature Dan Runty in Bigfoot against Craig Christensen in Dragon Slayer. And Kevin, it's important to note this year that the points don't stay with the truck, they stay with the driver. So Runty is really starting from scratch in round 3.
Absolutely. You know, we saw this matchup in straight line drags. Runty walked away with the victory pretty easily. Now it's going to be up to him to outdrive Craig Christensen on this obstacle course. Now here we go. We're around the first corner. Christensen's lined up. So is Runty. They are side by side on opposite sides of the course. And look at that. Christensen feeling the pressure, goes a little bit wide on that corner. And here they come. It's down to the time. Dragon Slayer with a 15.089 against Runty's 16.093.
Yeah, he beat Runty by a full second there. And you know Runty's got to be disappointed, giving up 2 rounds because Rick Long was in the truck's first rounds 1 and 2. He really wanted to win to maximize his opportunity here. He should be in that truck the rest of the year, but Dragon Slayer just faster around the turns. That short wheelbase and his expertise in power sliding through those corners got him the win against Bigfoot, the longer truck with the bigger motor.
That's right, and as you had mentioned about the points, Runty coming into this almost with basically with no points whatsoever, and so he's got a lot of ground to make up, much less having to lose to Craig Christensen right out of the gate here in his first round of obstacle course.
One thing's for sure, Dragon Slayer has served notice to everyone in 05 and again here in 06. Obstacle course racing, that's his turf. Don't mess with him. He's the king of the hill, and no one can knock him off so far. Your results tonight, Craig Christensen and Dragon Slayer on top, followed by Dan Runty, Rick Swanson, Dan Patrick, and Kelvin Raymer in Natural High. Finishing 6th, it was Paul Jensen and Spider-Man who did not run. Your season standings look like this. Dan Patrick still holds on to a narrow lead over Craig Christensen, followed by Rick Swanson, Rick Long, and Paul Jensen and Spider-Man is 5th. Checking in 6th place is Dan Runty and Bigfoot. We talked about that. Kelvin Raymer and Frank Scattini.
All right, Dan, a little bit of a role reversal now from last time around. You came out in the straight line drags. You put the hammer down. You ended up on top. This time a 2nd place finish to Craig. Man, it's just tough competition out there.
It is. Like I said, there's a bunch of tough trucks back there. You know, I'm not going to take nothing away from mine, though. That one was kind of my boo-boo, you know. It's one of those things on a turn course. If you make one little mistake, especially against somebody like Craig, it'll bite you, and it got me that time. We'll work on him tomorrow.
That's right. These corners are very tight, and it's critical that you get everything right from start to finish, especially against our 05 champion.
Absolutely. I mean, he's always been tough turning, but we'll come back tomorrow.
Well, Dan, a pleasure having you out here, and it looks like Bigfoot going to make a statement again this year.
We're going to try. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Dan Runty, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up for Dan Runty out of St. Louis, Missouri, driver of Bigfoot. Now our 2005 Series champion, Craig, once again proving why you were 05's champion.
Well, we tried our best, and like I say, I always tell you that it separates the men from the boys when you have to turn the truck, and that's my favorite part of the track is you have to be able to turn the truck. And I've raced as long as Dan has, and you know, back in the USA days, that's all we had was turning courses, and so it's always fun to race against some of these other trucks that don't turn as much. And once again, we came out on victorious.
Well, I tell you what, you sure put on a good fight. You ended up fast qualifier once again, came out for obstacle course action, and you just whooped everybody. Congratulations.
Well, that's what we came out here to do. We're having steering problems with Spider-Man. We're trying to get it ironed out right now, and hopefully we can get it done for Freestyle. Dragon Slayer doesn't have any oil pressure right now. They're back there changing oil and trying to get things done, so it doesn't like the humidity. We run dry blocks, so we don't have any water in them to help cool the motors down, and this humidity, they just don't like it.
Well, I tell you what, you've sure done a great job keeping it together. Are we going to be able to look for you in Freestyle?
We're trying to get it together right now, so hopefully we'll be back.
All right, well, there you have it. Thanks a lot, Craig. Once again, congratulations.
All right, thank you.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Craig Christensen, a Dragon Slayer. Put your hands together for your 05 Series champion. First place. Taking it home for the obstacle course, ladies and gentlemen.
Time for Freestyle in round 3 of MOD action from Del Rio, Texas. Coming to the track first is Kelvin Raymer in Natural High. He's flying over the van that they've added, tries a wheelie on the landing. Kevin, these are highlights. The racing was so intense we couldn't fit it all in, so we're just going to show you some of the best freestyle moves tonight. Here's another high-flying jump with a slap wheelie on the landing. This truck is really set up for freestyle.
Now let's see if we can actually get that wheelie that we were talking about earlier. And here he goes. He's got an opportunity. He lays it all the way over. Wade, that is one of the best wheelies I've seen from this truck yet.
And he wasn't done. He came down and tried for one more. It was a double, even though the second one was not as good as the first.
Let's see. He's got one more chance. He stands it all the way up to the tailgate, runs it about 40 feet up in the air. And, you know, I got to give it to these drivers because when they're that high, they've got no visibility whatsoever. Here it is one more time, a third wheelie all the way on the tailgate, running it across the arena, Wade.
He held that one for a good distance, 90 degrees, straight up and down, some smoke coming from Natural High. That was an exciting freestyle run, but my question is, what's that van made out of? It didn't even dent. Did you see that?
Man, oh man, I don't know. It could be that Kelvin Raymer runs a smaller motor. His truck is much lighter than these other trucks out here, so he might not incur quite as much damage to these machines.
Look at this. He gets over the van, and it looks like it hasn't been touched. Not a single scratch on it. Lands well. Tries for the wheelie right there, but that one was mostly air. Here's another good jump. Another look at Natural High as he gets the wheelie going, stands it on the tailgate. A little bit of fiberglass, maybe it broke there, maybe just expanded, but he's doing some damage to the back of that truck.
Well, I'll tell you what, it sure serves purpose, that wheelie bar he's got on the back. It's the only monster truck I've ever seen with that. Look at him just dig it into the dirt right there. He is all about the crowd out here in the show for freestyle.
I always like seeing this truck do freestyle because there's no other way to describe it. That was pretty cool.
It is pretty cool, especially seeing that suspension unload. And now let's look at Dan Patrick in the number 50 Samson truck. He's got a little bit to prove after a bunch of red lights out here tonight. He's got to turn this crowd over in his favor.
Yeah, the good thing about freestyle is once they start the 90-second count, there's no more lights to worry about. There's some pieces fly off the van. Not a lot of air for Patrick. Oh, look at this. Up and over that big mound right there, the front way up high.
Samson throwing both fists in the air, launching the cars right there in the number 50 machine. Once again, these are highlights. Samson coming back around for another run at the cars, this time airing it out. And it looks like he is just about done. Samson does not have a whole lot in store for us in freestyle tonight, Wade.
Getting some distance on those jumps, not a whole lot of height. A couple more moves here. It's a challenging arena. It's a little bit short. Turns are tight. Here he slaps the front down there. Almost put it, instead of a tailgate stand, he almost stood it on the front bumper right there. He's going to park it. He's done. Challenging conditions in freestyle here for that truck tonight.
That's right, and that driver has been through an awful lot mentally tonight, being defeated not only by competitors but by the lights as well. And so to come out at the end of the night and even put on a freestyle run is very respectable.
Let's take a look at some of his better moves up and over the van. That van is still in pretty good shape. We've had 2 trucks come out and it's still standing. Not really monsters of destruction here so far tonight. They're sort of like monsters of mild, denting. More freestyle coming at you. This is highlights of Rick Swanson's run in the Obsession truck. On the gas, flying high over the white car stack. Let's take another look. Not a whole lot going on there in his first pass, but he's got something here. It's a donut. He's trying to get it going. A lot of dust flying. A nice little move there from Rick Swanson, Kevin.
That's right, a donut, one of his famous moves. It's the one he likes to do most, but this arena out here in Del Rio, Texas, a little bit small on both ends of it, and the dirt is very compact. There you see Rick Swanson trying to get a wheelie. Let's take a look and see if he can actually, and there we go. The van has officially been crushed by Rick Swanson in the Obsession truck,
That's
Wade.
what I'm talking about. I've been waiting for that all night, but that van is tough. It broke the Obsession truck. Van 3, trucks 0.
That's right, the van again victorious in one more round, and look at this. We'll take another slow look at it as Rick Swanson comes over. It looks like he might have busted a tranny cooler line there as fluid and spray all over the place and on top of the van.
We're going to have to go down to the arena floor, find out who made that van. I'm buying 3 of them because my family is going to be safe in that van. They must have put some cement or something in there to mess with these guys.
Well, let's find out if Bigfoot is able to take advantage of it as Dan Runty in the Summit Bigfoot comes back out of the arena with a big wheelie to open up freestyle.
And he carried that one the length of the arena floor. That was a nice wheelie there. Good height on this jump right here. The right stack is pretty much pulverized. Runty having some fun here tonight, and you can really tell he's enjoying himself. Up and over the van he goes. He's looking good, Kevin.
And Runty, his first round of the season out here with the 2006 MOD Tour, wants to come out and make a good showing in the number 88 Bigfoot. And I'll tell you what, he has done a great job thus far. Let's see if we can get one more wheelie out of him as he tries to get it airborne there on the Firestone Summit Bigfoot. And Dan Runty is putting on a good show for this Del Rio, Texas crowd.
Yeah, and there's been a good crowd on hand tonight. Standing room only. Monsters of Destruction catching on in Del Rio. One more show left. Round 4 will also be from this venue. And Dan Runty slides it to a stop, and that will conclude what has been a pretty exciting night of racing.
That's right. It has been very competitive all night long, as we have seen here for round number 3. We're going to walk away with some great victors. Craig Christensen, the Dragon Slayer, has got to be happy with his wins here tonight as he moves ever so close up behind Samson at 65-61 in the point standings.
Yeah, he really carried that wheelie pretty far. It's been a great night of racing. We'll be back with round 4 next week. For everyone at MOD, this is Wade Sherman saying good night, everyone.